Welcome everybody to our Nantucket Roundtable. We, in years past, have done these in person. Many sessions have been held at the local, in Brewster, near our local office, and we've had several in Nantucket and the Vineyard over the years. Obviously, this year a little bit different. So we've been holding these virtual meetings with homeowners on the Cape and Islands for since COVID started. So since maybe we started them up in May, just to help guide homeowners through that whole process, and we kept them going because we found them worthwhile, very informative both to us and as we manage the We Need a Vacation site, and hopefully informative to homeowners. We've separated these meetings out over the last couple weeks by location. Just felt that it's useful to hear from other local homeowners, especially when it comes to Nantucket homeowners. You have specific issues, and it's nice to hear from folks that share the same sort of issues, or just simply the same areas where your rental homes are located. Before we get fully started, as I mentioned, I have a presentation to start with. First, just mention we have several people from We Need a Vacation team, specifically who's going to join in this conversation. Joan Talmadge, co-owner of We Need a Vacation. Say hello.
Hello.
And Elizabeth Whedon on the Vineyard. Say hello.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
A longtime 15+ year member of our team. Correct me if I'm wrong on that years. 12. I gave you a couple more. And my name's Jim Reese. So to get started, like I said, we're going to run a quick presentation and then open it up to a roundtable discussion. And I need to share my screen. Here we go. So for today's agenda here, as I mentioned, we're just going to do a quick introduction and go over the 2020 season. I have some statistics to show you for the season as a whole and specifically for Nantucket, and then a look ahead to what we predict for 2021. And then we will open it up for discussions and let everybody unmute themselves and join in and give their feedback on various topics. Of course, the biggest question that we're facing now is, what will 2021 be like? There's a lot of uncertainty about where we are headed, what the impact of the virus will be going into next year. The benefits, of course, are that we do know how to handle it. And when it comes to vacation rental management, we went through a lot of quick adjustments that everybody had to really rush to get through, to prepare their homes, prepare their guests, and even changes, were not consistent throughout. There were changes left and right. There were, quarantine rules, all that stuff. So homeowners dealt with that extremely well. Vacationers abided by those rules, and they too felt safe this past summer. So that bodes well moving ahead, but still there are these uncertainties about, again, what are the ramifications, what are any sort of new sort of guidelines that may come into play. So we can discuss some of those considerations. Looking back in terms of what did we see, and if you've attended some of the previous Zoom meetings, we have shown this report, and it clearly depicts what happened when the virus struck, when when really the country, or specifically our areas in New England, went into lockdown, and we saw the activity just completely drop. The major concern was, were we even going to have a summer at all during that March and April timeframe? As soon as things started to turn around, and you saw that Governor Baker put together a plan and announced that the plan was going to be reopening of the rentals on June 8th, the announcement came in May, and you started to see vacationers were using that opportunity to start booking their homes. And things rebounded from the drop that we saw in the spring, and they exceeded any sort of expectations, where we saw the demand at the highest demand that we really have ever seen on our site in our 23-year history. In addition, specifically, you can see that June this past year was the highest, but looking specifically at Nantucket, what we saw, July actually became the most popular month. Again, both June, July, August set records, but July stood out for Nantucket. The same thing we saw last week when we talked with the Vineyard. The island seemed to just peak even more as the summer went on. And we're still seeing high volume, which I'll get to. The other thing that bodes well for next year is just the industry in itself, the growth that we continue to see. There are a lot of vacationers that used vacation rentals for the very first time this past year. The vacation rentals were such a draw this year during the pandemic. The ability for families to get away to a safe place that is their own place, where they don't have to worry about sharing common spaces, where they may have gone to a hotel or a resort or jumped on a plane. Like there were just the desire to just stay somewhere local and stay somewhere where they could call their own space was very desirable. So we saw that in the growth of new vacationers that for the first time used our site and took advantage of a vacation rental. And so specifically, we saw that here on Nantucket, and we saw it across the Cape and Islands. During the fall, the past couple months, or these numbers are coming out of September and October of this past year, we saw increases over the previous year. So we saw increases in our traffic searches specifically for Nantucket and the inquiries for Nantucket rentals during this time frame. This is the demand that continues to be high for the off season and continues as folks begin to look into next season as well, into 2021. And then finally, we pulled out some booking numbers last week, seeing that as of November 11th, what is the forecast? What have we been seeing for bookings already for the following year? And so you can see here again that the increase for next summer as of early November is up 32%. So again, good strong indication that the 2021 season will be similar to the 2021, I would believe. And that leads us into those exact predictions. In terms of, we saw the chart before that, the chart where we saw a lull during the lockdown period. I believe that the demand will continue to be strong on our site, and we will not see the drop. We'll see likely this demand to just be spread out throughout the year more than we saw that big spike in June and July. I think folks will feel comfortable booking a home. We'll get into some of the considerations regarding cancellation policies and all that, but I think there are going to be a number of folks that want to play it safe this year. They're not going to be booking in long distance travel as much. And so a safe bet is going to be to stay locally for the summer. And that just increases, not just you have your usual folks that come every year, and now you have some folks that are, again, going to be first timers or repeat from that large list of new vacationers that we saw. And then I'd love to get feedback from folks in a bit on their off-season demand, but we've seen that off-season demand, whether it be this fall or going into next year, maybe over the holidays, folks are looking for, again, a local getaway, but they're also taking the opportunity to, whether it's working from home. I'm sure many of you have heard from folks that are looking to get away or extend not just a week, but extend to multiple weeks because they just plan to work. So you're probably getting a number of questions about how good is your Wi-Fi, because they want to jump on this very similar Zoom call for work. So you have not just vacationer demand, but professionals that are looking to get both work from wherever they can, or they have families with kids that might be remote schooled, so they can again use the opportunity to do so from wherever they would desire. So that's what we're seeing as a quick roundup for 2020 and into 2021. And what I'd like to do, just the bulk of the rest of the time here, is just let everybody else jump in on a discussion. We'll kind of lead the discussion to set a few ground rules here. The best thing, let me move to this slide. The best thing to do to help get everybody involved here, we don't have a large group, but again, it's hard to see everybody at once. So it's hard to we want to avoid everybody talking at once. So what we're going to do is start off by saying that everyone can raise their hand virtually. If you haven't been participating in Zoom meetings, there are some options available. If you're on a desktop, most of you are likely on your desktop computers. You'll see at the bottom of the screen a list of participants, the participants button. You can just click on that to raise up all the participants, and then you'll see at the bottom of the participants list, you'll see a raise hand option. That's the easiest way for us to just identify who wants to talk and get in. If you have trouble finding the raise hand option, you can unmute yourselves. I haven't locked that. You can unmute yourself and jump in and just tell me you have a question, and we'll get to you. We're not a large group that we can't do it that way, but we're going to start off trying with the raise hand option. Let me stop the share so we get back to this view. And so the number one question that we've all been having is on, or the most common question that a lot of us have been facing is regarding management of your rentals and going into next year. Due to COVID, a lot of changes were made last year, a lot of changes for cleaning, a lot of changes to how you might have managed your linens and all of that. Some of those things are going to continue, and some of them you might have said, yeah, those are overkill. I don't think I need to do that into next year. But what I'd love to hear from folks is just, what is it? What are the new changes that you did last year that you're going to continue? And what is it that you felt was perhaps a little overkill and you're going to scale back on? It's just helpful to hear from folks what their kind of management considerations, or if you have questions on that about what should you continue doing, we're happy to answer that. So if anybody wants to chime in on that, Curtis, I see your hand raised. So what I will do here, I think I can ask to unmute you, and then Linda, I see you next. So Curtis, what do you get? What are your thoughts?
I want to make a couple of comments. Among other things, right now, we have to look at the fact that Nantucket has had a very significant increase in COVID cases. My contacts with the health department say it tends to be the large group landscapers and to a little smaller group contractors who share housing. That has impacted us. But equally important is many people who have wanted to come here this fall are now finding that Christmas stroll is canceled. That used to be a big thing. I was the town crier for 30 years, so I ran it. They're not going to have stroll. We used to have the big tree lighting ceremony on Thanksgiving weekend. That's been canceled. That's going to be virtual. But more importantly, or equally important, and several of my guests have asked me about this, the fall people have said, what about our favorite restaurants and our shops? Well, quite frankly, about half of or more of our favorite restaurants have already closed when they would run through Christmas stroll, which is very disappointing. But these are going to impact what's happening. It's impacting us right now. And I just want to make sure we are aware of the shops and restaurants and things like the event, like our New Year's fireworks are not going to be held this year. So those are general observations. The other thing I'd like to contribute from what we did this year, which I think is very important, is our cleaning turnover process. We added an extra hour to our crew to sanitize, and instead of just changing sheets, we now strip the beds from the bottom up. I take off the mattress pads, all the sheets, the covers, and we have 3 sets of linens and towels for our houses. So everything gets stripped and everything gets replaced. And that has been, I sent a notice out to my regulars, and we have 80% repeats here. I've sent that notice out, and everyone was very, very happy to hear that that was the protocol we were following. So I trust that all of you are doing something similar.
Are you going to stick with that, Curtis, for next year, or just,
of course.
or any?
I mean, that becomes the new routine. And the irony is, instead of sending everything to a commercial laundry, which would bankrupt us, I do all the laundry at my house. So I just got 3 more baskets. I now have 6 laundry baskets to get stuff out. I stack them in the bathroom, and then for the first 2 or 3 days, I run 2 or 3 loads a day to get them all ready, and then put them in the other baskets so they're all ready to walk in. So there's no time wasted in doing laundry in the cottage. They are ready to go, and it lets the team work very much on cleaning, and they go outdoors and do the deck furniture. They clean the grill. They're a wonderful team, and you got to do it all.
Great. It's no small feat to do the linens. I think there's probably linens probably has had the wide range of how various ways people have handled it, but certainly, it's great that your vacationers acknowledge and appreciate that. Let me just move on, grab some other hands here. Linda, you want to chime in here? Ask to unmute. There you go.
Perfect. Yeah, so similar to Curtis, we basically did the same exact thing. We strip it down to the mattress pad, sheets, quilts. We got rid of a lot of the extra stuff. Like in the summertime, we don't have blankets. We got rid of toss pillows on couches. We got rid of area rugs. So we kind of like simplified things and put stuff away.
Decluttered.
Yeah, decluttered. It's pretty decluttered anyway, but just those basic things that we didn't have to worry about cleaning or sanitizing or whatever. I put in touchless soap dispensers in all the bathrooms and in the kitchen. And I actually made out of a pallet, like a wooden shoe rack for the front porch, basically asking people to take their shoes off, keeping, because you don't know where people are going. And sorry, that's my dog. And then I had a touchless sanitizer at the front porch as well. And other than that, my cleaners, housekeepers like Curtis's spent, extra time there. They had all the right products to, clean doorknobs and, all the extra things. And people really respected and appreciated the efforts and felt more comfortable coming and, rebooking for next year because of the policies we had in place. I actually had one guest of a guest. So he was a husband and wife that came that weren't really on my guest list, but they came as a couple to spend some time there. And he was an ICU doctor at Mass General and appreciated because I also sent them out, and I'm happy to share with anybody if they want it, like, what types of things we did to the home to make them comfortable. And I gave everybody like a little welcome gift with like sanitizer and some masks and stuff like that. And it seemed to be successful, making people feel more comfortable.
So Linda, it sounds like some of those things that you have done, you might keep around even
for
after
sure. Yeah,
the virus is over.
Yeah, for sure. I think it makes sense just going forward to keep it all. Yeah.
And I think the number one thing there, on top of just the services that you provide, was the communication that you provided.
Yeah.
The ability to reach out to them before they arrive to let them know these are the things that I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Think about all your vacationers are already on heightened alert last year about COVID and what the restrictions are, and is this home going to be safe for me?
Yeah.
And so what you did probably went such a long way to reassure them that they can come, and then when they were there, they felt safe.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
That's great.
Good for you, Linda.
Yeah, thank you.
JP, your hand is up as well.
Hi, my name is Jane. This was my first year. We just bought our property almost a year ago. And so I'm kind of confused. Our cleaners had estimated somewhere around 6 hours to do the cleaning. And when we got the cleaning, it was at least double that. It was huge. And this also happened we've been renting ourselves on Nantucket for the past 30 years, the same place. And I've been known to leave it cleaner than I get there. But the owner there was having a problem with their cleaners as well, saying, I know you didn't leave it this bad. It was huge cleaning bills. Now, I know that the health department provided protocols, but did anybody have this problem this issue with huge cleaning bills? I mean, there's one tenant that really was a slob, but the cleaning hours kind of were the same for that tenant as the rest. So was there something that I missed in terms of, people kind of having these huge protocols or bills?
Jane, most cleaning companies will give you a set rate that they will charge for each cleaning so that you know ahead of time. And then if there is extraordinary cleaning involved, then they will charge you for the overage. But it sounds like in your case, it was established, the rate was established on a case-by-case basis. Is that
Yeah,
true?
it was an hourly rate. And again, because it was our first time, it was their first time. But that might be a way to go to kind of for next, because as everybody's been saying, that the protocols are going to be in place. And I sort of tentatively tried to pass it on to people. The other thing that I did was I was able to, because of cancellations and so on, I was able to space out my rentals, and I took the hit in terms of not having it fully booked. But so that the cleaning people could get in and do what they needed to do. But when it came time to pass on any cleaning fees, extra beyond the 6 hours that was in the lease agreement, there was huge pushback.
Sure.
So that's actually a good suggestion. I'll try to negotiate a set time with them and then try to build it in the rate maybe.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Hi, I'm Cynthia. Nantucket, I'm just curious about what you're saying. On Nantucket, our cleaners charge a flat rate, which is $200 for the house. If there's
Really?
anything that goes over that, they send me pictures of what the reason was. So if any guests in particular were extremely messy, they didn't wash any, it happens. They didn't wash any dishes. They never took out trash. Whatever the case may be, my cleaner just snaps pictures and shows me. And then, I send her an extra, $30 or $50 or whatever it's going to be, but never on a time by time basis. I just,
Wow. Okay.
I
All
don't
right. I learn something every day.
Yeah.
All right. I'll negotiate with the cleaners about, and they were referred to me by my realtor that sold me the house uses them.
I have
So,
fabulous cleaners. If you want to text me after the
Yeah.
call, I'll share it with you.
Please.
And then the other thing I wanted to say was about what we did for people. We started out by advertising and sending our linens to a professional place to have them cleaned and everything. And I thought to myself, people will feel so comfortable and that'll make a huge difference. Well, it was cost a fortune, but luckily my cleaner invested in industrial washers and dryers for her own house. So we actually went to that kind of midsummer and that worked out much better. We also offered extra laundry baskets and we asked people, as we always do, to strip all the sheets and towels. And instead of putting them downstairs by the washing machine, we asked them to put it out on the front porch. So that way my cleaners could come and pick everything up. And then when they arrived later to do the cleaning, they brought clean stuff that was already bagged and, tied and bagged just for my house. So people seemed good with that. And then the other thing is I left big baskets by each of the front doors with all kinds of supplies in it, including individually wrapped sponges. So I don't use kitchen sponges. I use a cloth, but people love their sponges. So I got individually wrapped ones. So each family or whatever could, start with a fresh one for themselves. Yeah. And then of course the cleaners would throw them out. So that seemed to help and also sanitizer and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's great.
Another good solution especially with your linen approach to linens, which can be a major time suck. One more here that on this topic here, Ron, do you want to jump in?
Oh.
Asked to unmute. You may have to unmute on your end.
Jim Sharon's been waiting.
There we go.
Too.
Now it worked. Okay.
There you go. Hey, Ron.
A couple of things. I've been renting for probably about 20 plus years on the island. And so I've gone through cleaners, landscapers, 7 landscapers, whatever. Go through it all on Nantucket. And now I'm on the HVAC people too. Don't get me started there. Anyway, as far as what I did differently, I think in terms of hand sanitizer, bottle of Lysol for everybody checking in, managed to do that. That seemed to go well, although I may not do it again next year. I did get the situation where my cleaners, who had been my cleaners for probably about almost 15 years, decided in May, late May, that they weren't going to do anything. They weren't going to clean for the summer.
Oh,
Stopped. Now, meanwhile, I've got all these bookings, and I've got, by late May, I've got to find somebody new to hire, you know. And she said, well, I want you to make it, you have to give an extra day in between, and maybe I'll think about it. And it's really hard to do that because, you know, you got people that have booked 6-9 months in advance. They've made their ferry reservations. They're bringing their car over. They can't change their ferry reservations, you know, and once you move one, you can't move the others. And so you have to take it a day less or something. It doesn't work. So anyway, I ended up with new cleaners, actually through my realtor as well. And I like them quite a bit. They were slightly more expensive, and I think they came around that average of slightly, maybe around 200 per clean type of thing, slightly above that. And what I did like about them is that my guests complimented me on how clean the house was, number one, and these were repeat guests, and so I like that. And number two, any problem I had, they would come right back to me within an hour or two on the internet, which is important to me because I live in London, and I was on island about 3 weeks ago or something, and now I'm back in London. So remote management is my name here. But we went to the cleaning everything in terms of the sheets, blankets, the covers, etc. Changing the covers, getting rid of the larger original style quilts in favor of brand new ones that are lighter and easier to wash. And I put in a new commercial washer and dryer, so that helped, and everybody could turn that around pretty well. So I didn't really run into a lot of problems, but I added up in terms of pump soaps. And then also, just because I didn't want to put pump soaps everywhere, I bought those sort of small hotel style soaps that just looked nicer and smelled nice, and you could put them in the bath or something, and then just throw them away. Whatever's left at the end of that rental, out it goes, new ones come in. And it wasn't a whole lot of money, and it was actually kind of a nice thing to do. And some guests commented on that as well. So I was lucky with the cleaners. They turned around really well, and because of their attention to detail and their communication and their responsiveness on any issue, I have to sit there and think, do I want to go back to the people I had previously who like just kind of left me in the lurch? I'm not really excited about that, even though they did know the house well. So that was kind of an issue. I just wanted to also make one comment. Curtis made some very good points about restaurants being closed. And part of the reason why I came back a little earlier to London was just because it's getting dark, got most of my work done. And yeah, a lot of restaurants were being closed. Of course, I come back into a lockdown here. But the one thing I noticed on Nantucket that bodes, I think, well for rentals is the fact that at least Thursday through Sunday, through the end of the year, JetBlue operates to New York. Jets. Now, they also operate under Cape Air the rest of the week, so you can fly in a twin engine prop to wherever, JFK or whatever, I don't know. But the fact that JetBlue's flying through Christmas, I think is great news, and I'd love to see them fly, all year, even if it's Thursday through Sunday. That would be great. It makes a huge difference, not only for some of my renters that want to come and go, but also for me. So anyway, that's it. Very quick.
One comment just in response. One thing my cleaners told me at the beginning of the season was that the cleaners were afraid to clean because they thought they were going to get COVID. So she lost a lot of workers because of it.
I agree on that. And I bought extra, masks and things to put on their clothes, on their shoes and everything that they wanted. But I said, you know, and I changed my hours. I had, you know, I had very, very late check-ins, 4 or 5 p.m. check-ins. You had to be out by 9 a.m. type of thing. But I couldn't, you know, in only 1 or 2 instances, I was able to give a full day in between. I just wasn't able to do that because people had booked.
I
And
couldn't.
I had to find somebody that was able to work that, and these people were.
Yeah, what we've heard is that many people did extend their check-in, check-out times to really just allow for that cleaning to occur. Some people did look for giving an extra day, as you mentioned, Ron. That was kind of hard with already your existing bookings. But some people this past summer, just out of an abundance of caution or just for peace of mind, went to a single day in between, or even some people alternated weeks every other week. That's something that I think people are going to feel less like, not going to feel the need to do anymore, or at least for the next summer. I think people understand that the virus, the major concern of the virus is not on physical materials as much as it is ensuring that, the enough length of time has passed, that, of course, everyone's just taking all their sanitary precautions. Joan, anything, that you see in addition before we move on
Well,
to?
Yeah, I agree. I think that people realized that the virus was not spread as easily through materials as once thought about. And I do think that it's hard and much more difficult on the islands with the ferry situation to curtail or leave a day in between. That created quite a nightmare, I think, for a lot of people last year. I think that we know a lot more. I think that by next year, the situation will be different, even though the virus will still be with us, no doubt. Sharon has been waiting.
Yes, I see her hand raised.
Thank you. Well, this is on the same topic. I was just curious if anybody was adjusting their rates based on the cleaning, because our cleaning bills are really high. We have a reasonably large house with lots of moldings and stuff. And by the time the cleaning's done, it's like 15 or 16 hours, plus all of the laundry at Holdgates. It was a significant cost relative to the rent. I didn't add to the rent this year, but I'm contemplating how to handle it going forward and wondering if people have upped their rents or added cleaning fees.
Linda,
You
what do you?
charge, Sharon, by the turnover, by your cleaning people, or by the hour? How was yours set up?
The cleaners?
Yeah,
The cleaners are hourly by
So-
each turnover.
so they charge you, you wait to hear from them every week as to
Yeah.
how much.
Yeah, and I up until now had in my lease 10 hours of cleaning was included. And I didn't feel it was right in a COVID year to add, I mean, since they had signed leases before, most of my people were returning tenants. So I didn't increase any cleaning fees for this year, but I'm contemplating going forward if it's presumed that we need to still send everything out to Holdgates, because I don't have extra washing machines. I mean, we have 3 washing machines in our house, but even so, you can't handle all the blankets and bedspreads and everything. So I'm just curious how other people are handling it and if there's a standard.
Linda, what do you?
Yeah, just so on that note, Sharon, I have been renting homes on Nantucket for 20 years, and I've always had the rent as a specific amount and the cleaning as a specific amount. So if your cleaning is $300 per turnover, I charge it to the people, or I would increase the rate if you don't feel comfortable, adding that as a separate thing. But people don't seem to mind. And I have a caveat saying, if you're cleaning, so it's in their best interest to leave it as clean as they found it, because if it takes the cleaners 10 hours instead of 5 hours to clean, then I deduct that from their fee, their security deposit.
So you include a certain up to $300 and
Yep.
above.
Yeah, and our cleaning, because of the size of the house, like yours with moldings and, changing all the beds and stuff, it typically is $300 to clean it. And so if anything above and beyond, like if they left the house trashed or they didn't take, start the laundry or whatever, and it's 500, then, but I haven't had any of that. So everybody is, it's been easy to do it that way.
I don't know if this helps, but I had, for the first time in like 40 years this year, did not include linens because I knew that my cleaners would have a really challenging year, even if and everything did work out fine, but just with the added sanitation and worries and precautions and everything. So I didn't include bed linens and towels, but it was amazing how much laundry I still had to do because I laundered the mattress protectors and the pillow protectors so I don't know if that helps you guys at all, but you can kind of do somewhere in between too. You can provide bed linens, but not towels if that linens issue becomes tough. It is hard on the islands, having people bring all that stuff, but at some point, we're not bed and breakfasts, and our responsibilities of cleaning the house are challenging enough. So providing linens, you might just rethink. It's a great benefit to have, and my guests loved the fact for so many years that I included them, but it's just something to think about.
A couple other hands here. Kathy, I'm going to unmute.
Yep.
Kathy,
Hi.
and then Greg after that.
Hi. Yes, same thing happened to us. We lost our cleaner that we had had for 5 years. She retired. I think she just was afraid of the COVID and whatever. And she had her own girls that used to come in and help her. So we were in a lurch, and we did start with a new group this year. It worked out okay, except it seemed to us to be a lot more than it was last year. We did kind of lose money because we had already, our renters had already paid their cleaning fee. So, we kind of ate the excess that we had to pay, but we did make an adjustment for next year. And most of our renters are repeat people. So we've sent them out already with the list of, for the new rent and the new cleaning fee. And we haven't had any problems with that. They haven't said anything to us. So, I think that works. As far as the laundry, I have the girls, either I go over myself after people leave and just strip everything out if there's time before they get there. And then the cleaners come in and everything's gone. And I bring the clean sheets and towels and linens over for them to put on. So I do my own thing here, but we're right next door to the rental.
Right.
So I can run back and forth and do things that have to be done. So it's a little more convenient. I did buy a bigger washer and dryer, more of an industrial size, so I can do and I did everything too. I stripped everything right down to the mattress, did the pads and the sheets and the blankets and the covers and everything. So it was a lot of work.
It's nothing more impactful than linens. I mean, it's just we kind of joke every time we come into these meetings. It all falls back. The conversation often falls back to linens because they take up so much time. But
Linens and cleaning.
yeah, exactly. One more on this topic, Greg. You want to jump in here?
Yes, please. Just a couple minutes. I think it's as a recap, it's really impossible to have a one-size-fits-all on cleaning. I've had to be very flexible. I've been doing this for 28 years now. I've seen people come and go. I've seen different tenants. I think I've seen it all, then I see something else. But I've learned that incorporating the cleaning fee into the rent charge doesn't have an impact on the occupant to keep things clean. Because I have a flat fee of $225 for cleaning charges to all of my tenants, and I have an excess cleaning and damage deposit where under the agreement, I have the unilateral right to take money out of that for any excess cleaning. And when there is excess cleaning, my cleaning people are specifically aware of that they have to take pictures. When I have pictures, there's never an argument. And the last thing is that I don't use a service to do linens and everything else, but I do ask my tenants to do towels. Towels are the longest part of the linen process to dry. If they can start towels as soon as they get done taking their showers on departure day and start that process, then actually doing linens is not that bad a deal. if the cleaning staff is there for a couple of hours. And it's worked out for me. It's never perfect, but you have to engage through good communication. You have to engage the occupant to understand why we're asking for their cooperation, so we can have a good turnover and things can be done in a timely manner. Otherwise, it extends the arrival time, people leave earlier and everything else. No magic answer, but communication is a big thing. Thank you.
Yeah,
Amen
thanks,
to
Greg.
that.
Yeah, I like we mentioned it before, communication, however you decide, I agree. There's so many different ways that you can manage your rentals, manage your cleaning and linens, but communication ultimately is going to make or break it with your guests. If they know what they're coming into, know what to expect, that generally they will be amenable to that and appreciate it. They don't want to be surprised. And especially in a year like this year, where safety was the #1 concern, communicating what your process would be. People were understanding. I rented a home myself this summer, and the owner told me that they were taking out all pillows, all comforters. It was a 2-bedroom, so it wasn't a big deal for my family to bring all the necessary means. But you know, that's different. Like some people might feel like you need to supply everything. In my case, it was communicated to me, and so we pack up our car and bring our own pillows. And that was, if that is what meant I could have a vacation this past summer and be safe, like that was fine with me. That was maybe that won't go on. That's not going to go on forever. But during this pandemic, that's a sacrifice, easy one for a vacationer to make. I do want to keep moving on to slightly just a couple other topics here. Talk about cancellation policies looking ahead to next year. Again, another one that varies greatly. People have different opinions on how to do this. There's no right or wrong answer to this, but it can have an impact, especially now in the early parts of a booking season. What vacationers often are asking what your cancellation policies are. How flexible are you? Do you have something where it is you're only going to refund if you are able to rebook it, or do you relax it a little bit at this time? So I'd love to hear what folks are doing regarding their cancellation policies, again, knowing the situation that we are in with this pandemic. If anybody wants to unmute themselves, there's no other hands raised.
Cynthia.
Cynthia, go ahead. Yes, I see it.
I added that if they're canceling due to COVID restrictions, then I would give 100% refund, which is what I did this past season. So I added that to the lease, and I added it to the information on the website, and people seem fine with that. I haven't had any pushback about that.
So you mean not necessarily that they came down with, they tested positive, but that's something to do with a ban, that they weren't able to get to the island, or?
That's what's on my lease. I say due to COVID restrictions in Massachusetts.
Sure. Curtis, what do you do? You have to unmute click a button to unmute on your end.
Hey, I'm unmuted.
Yep.
I told everyone, and I have a lot of regulars, I told them they get 100% refund, no penalty. 2 people canceled. I gave them 100% of their deposit, and then one of them rebooked for 3 weeks in September at a reduced rate. But my feeling was, like my trip to Bermuda that was canceled, and Delta gave me 100% of it back. I just said 100%, and that's pretty good investment in PR. So with all the regulars, they were very happy, and they're booking like mad for next year.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Good to hear. Linda?
Yeah, a lot of the same with what Curtis says. I think my only caveat that I did differently in my lease was I put in there, we can't control what a family does outside of or before they come to my rental property. So if there was a travel restriction, like if you're from Connecticut and you couldn't travel to Mass, or Mass wasn't allowing people to travel, the ferry was closed, I give 100% back. But if a family, has all these young kids, and the young kids are partying and they all get COVID before they come, I felt like that wasn't my responsibility. If you want to come on vacation, you should quarantine or keep your family safe before traveling. That only affects, everybody on the ferry, everybody that you're traveling with. So So I didn't have any issues. Nobody canceled this in 2020. Everybody was safe and the island did really well. So
Yes, definitely. We definitely saw exactly that. I mean, people were respectful and
Yeah.
abided by those rules. So,
Yeah.
Curtis, do you think you'll do the same for next year? And if so, it's one thing to give a cancellation if they cancel in January or May, but what if they cancel the week before? Would you be as generous? Because then you have to eat that whole week.
Actually, I hadn't anticipated that problem. I have so many regulars and again, like Linda, we make sure they either get a COVID test. I had people from Florida and they came in with tests. I had people from Washington, they came in with tests. But I've got so many that are 10-year people, family, that they're not going to book if they're not going to be safe. And so as far as I'm concerned, if you tell me you can't come, normally it's not the week before. I'm going to stick with the refund or apply it to a future booking.
Sure. One thing to note this year being an exception, and Ron, I see you. I'll get you as well. This year, bookings were in such high demand, especially at the last minute, June and July, that in a normal year you might be afraid of getting a cancellation a week or two before. This year, we were seeing that left and right. People were getting those cancellations for whatever reasons, but they were rebooking those homes the next day. They were putting up an alert and getting a booking. And so it's not going to be like that forever. Again, like I mentioned, it's like demand's likely going to be spread out a little bit more. And once the pandemic's over, things will come back down to earth a little bit. But you can expect that the demands are higher this year, that you have a little more opportunity to be flexible if that suits your business practice. With your cancellation policies, knowing that the demand is there, and especially early on. I see Kathy and then Ron. Kathy?
Hi, yeah, we had one cancellation at the beginning. It was our resident who comes back, guest who comes back every year, and it was for a 4-week stay, which was kind of devastating. It was middle of June, end of June to the end of July. So, but it turned out fine because our son and daughter-in-law came from California and they were able to stay over there. So it worked out fine for us, but we had to eat the cost, but a family being here from California for the month of July was much nicer. So the other thing is we usually put in a cancellation policy, and most of our people are repeat too, so we're a little generous with it, but 2 months ahead, if we hear from them, we kind of will return their money. If it's after 2 months close to the date that they're arriving, then there's a $500 administrative fee that we charge.
Well, that seems fair.
And Kathy, do you publish that on your listing that you give up to 2 months?
No, I don't. I should probably, huh?
That's one thing. If you do have that practice and allow for it, it is a factor in somebody might be a little more willing to commit now in November, December, knowing that, okay, I gotta, I have a little bit of a leeway. It's a selling factor for you. And again, not for everybody, but it is a selling factor for your home.
Thank you. Yeah.
Ron, did you want to add something?
Yeah, just quickly. I mean, this certainly was a summer where I think where all of us had to improvise very quickly and didn't know what was going to happen the next day. And I'm not alone in that, I'm sure. And very similar to Curtis, I had 2 cancellations in July, one at the beginning of July for the last week in July, and the other one the second week in July. I hadn't done anything with the first one. The second week of July comes in, and they were for the first week in August. And, one person was in California, and they just said, look, we can't fly. It's just not going to be practical. And I could understand that. I can't remember where the second person was. I think actually in Pennsylvania. And the following day, I rented both weeks, to 2 different people came in out of the blue, and it was done. And so that was fine. I don't know if that'll happen again. And I tend to be somebody who is, unless you have a really good reason, I would like to be able to rent the week. If you're going to cancel on me, I'll be happy to give you a full refund if I can rent that. This past summer being a complete exception, where I gave 100% refunds to anybody that didn't feel comfortable about coming, and just hoped that I could re-rent the weeks, and it turned out I could. So I did end up refunding one person, sorry, in June for next June, and then refunded two, and then quickly rebooked those weeks, literally within 24 hours. So very lucky on that. But my normal policy would be, again, it's sort of a 2-month policy, and then after that, I'll play it by ear. If I can rent it, or I give back partial or whatever. It really depends. Are they repeat tenants? It's a custom deal.
I think one of the challenges that people have faced, I mean, it's great that you got those bookings this summer, rebookings, is that we've had some folks say that they've deferred, right? Your guests have deferred from 2020 into 2021. And now you have guests that actually did stay with you during 2020. And now what do you do with those repeat guests from 2020? But also they're going for the exact same week that you deferred the 2021 guests. So you might have two parties for the same week. Nice problem to have, but you do need to manage it somehow and decide, how you prioritize who gets certain weeks when you have two groups of people that might be going for the same week.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just I just tell them, sorry, it's booked next year.
Yeah, right.
I had somebody come in this year and take 5 weeks for next year. And fine, take 5 weeks. Thank you very much. Not a complaint, but they did knock out a couple of regulars that would want to come back for their specific week, 2 regulars. And I said, look, and one moved to another week and one couldn't do anything. And I was sorry about that, but I did know enough about the people that took the 5 weeks that the last place they'd been for 10 years doing the same thing. So I thought, and they only stopped doing it because the place was sold.
So good decision and good find. Curtis, do you want to jump in on this one?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to We Need a Vacation, because all the rebookings came within a day or two through WeNeedaVacation.com. So good job for you guys and for all of us who are on the service. Best going. I have no use for those other jerks, and I'm with you forever and ever. Thank you.
Glad to hear that.
Appreciate that, Curtis.
Well, and I would say right back at the homeowners like you on this call and our other homeowners over the service, we get the pleasure of being able to meet with folks here face to face and hear what your practices are, hear what your challenges are, and in turn, we know that you're doing your best, applying these best practices towards your guests, and that's something that we love to hear. We want to make sure that our guests have a good experience, that they're treated well, that you guys are taking good care. Of course, you're going to take good care of your homes, and relaying that to your guests so that they have the best experience possible. And as we're all looking, I mean, you all want repeat guests and we want repeat visitors to our site. It just helps. It's a win-win situation to get to have good quality guests for your homes, and if they're coming through our site, obviously that helps us in a win-win here. Speaking of the kind of the repeat guests, that's one of the other topics I wanted to touch upon. We actually just sent out a survey to a number of our vacationers. We got over 1,700 responses back, and which was more than we have in other surveys. And it was about 74% of the people said, of those that came this summer, 74% said they would return to the same home. And so clearly people are doing something right. And I've heard multiple times already during this call that you get, I don't know who it was, said they got 80% of their guests are repeats. That's a huge volume of repeats, and just makes your life easier trying to book up a smaller number of homes from year to year. Ron, as you said, a 5-weeker, I mean, that helps cut your summer in half, and then you're working on the shoulder seasons if you get those repeats. So I just wanted to hear what folks kind of think is the most important factor to you to get your guests to return. What really helps, or what really is kind of one of those factors that really gets your guests to keep coming back year to year? Linda, you want to jump in?
I think the communication with people, and one of the things that I like about your site is that you allow me to communicate with the potential guest prior to them booking, because I feel like nowadays with all the fraud and whatnot, they, you don't know if I was going to rent from you, like, I don't know if you're real or not, like, until you speak to them on the phone. So I do spend a lot of time talking to people and emailing, stuff about Nantucket. I have like a form letter that I send out to everybody. So I feel like the communication is key to getting return people, because they feel like it's more like a home to them instead of like a vacation, like they're going home. They feel comfortable.
Great.
Totally.
Kathy, do you want, or Joan, do you?
No, I was just going to say we totally endorse that. In fact, we encourage this communication. When we have issues with vacationers who call us or with a homeowner, and we say, did you have a phone conversation before you rented? No, everything was done through text or email. And we say, really, you really should communicate with them by phone. There's just so much more you can learn just by even a short conversation to make sure that they're a good fit, that you want them and that they want your home. And it just solves so many problems, or avoids so many potential problems. With Kathy?
Yeah, Kathy?
Yep, I agree. I think it's communication, and it's a personal touch, I think, too. Like I said, we're fortunate to be right next door. So when our guests arrive, we're there to greet them and welcome them, and walk them down to the cottage. And if they have any questions, we're right here. Feel free to call or text anytime. And when they leave, now I've started a new tradition, because they are repeat people, and a lot of them are little families. And I end up, the day they're leaving, we say goodbye, and I take a picture of them right next to the cottage, so they can use it like a Christmas card or something like that.
Nice.
So they all really like that, and we can keep them from year to year if they keep coming back too, because like I say. But yeah, and it's just, during the year, we send out Christmas cards to the people who have been before. What we did this year, we did something a little different, because we're getting more repeats. Everybody was starting to ask us, when are you going to open up the rates and, start taking reservations. So we sent a letter out to our email letter out to all of our guests and said, okay, this is the deal. And we told them what we were going to be charging, and we had to increase a little bit because we hadn't done it for a few years. And it was a kind of a free for all. So if you know the weeks that you want or the times you want, get on and give us a call right back, and log in as, we'll put you right in, but it's, first come, first serve, and boom, 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 they all came right in. So it all fell into place. We have, I think, 2 weeks at the end of September left.
Wow.
Well, other than that,
Great.
yeah, so it's worked out really well for us.
Can I just interrupt and say that unfortunately, not all of us, I mean, I try to be here for my turnovers too, Kathy, and I did do that, took a picture once of a outgoing tenant, and I think it's a great idea. I wish I had done that for all of them, but most of us can't be here to greet or say goodbye to them, of course. But in lieu of that, one thing that we've really been promoting for the last few years is to check in with your guests. If you can't be here, to do so physically. And of course, this year I was very careful, because I wanted to respect their distance and for safety reasons, didn't want to have the face-to-face contact. But you've got to call them no matter what, no matter where you are in the world. Check in with them either that afternoon or evening, depending on when they check in, or if it's late the next morning. Having that, and you can do it by text or email, but I prefer the phone. It's the next best thing to doing what Kathy does, right? It just makes it more personal. I also find that if they have any misgivings or just concerns that they can't find something, they're much more apt to communicate it to me if I'm just talking to them and we're just sort of, talking about other things. And so many times what Joan and I find on negative reviews or problems that come up, it's because that conversation didn't happen. First of all, the screening maybe didn't happen, as Joan said, by phone, and really wasn't thorough right from the booking, process in the beginning. But also just to be sure you check in with them after they get there to make sure that they don't have any questions, even if you can't physically be there.
That's a good point. Cynthia?
Well, one thing, and you might be getting to it, so I don't want to rush you. but I wanted to talk about the fact that everyone is saying that bookings are way up, but I'm not seeing that at all. And usually, are you going to talk about that? Should I just wait?
Well, certainly we can get to it. You know, and hear from folks, just kind of what their interpretation is. So,
Sure. I just
yes.
know if there's a certain type of house or a certain price point that's way up. In a normal year, I'm 100% booked by the end of January. So in a normal year, I'm not worried about it. But with everyone saying that they're seeing such an increase, I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing hit, but no.
Let me ask you about repeats. Like, do you often get repeats, and what are your repeats for next year?
My repeats are already set. Yes.
Okay. And how many repeats do you have out of your summer?
I have one person that is a 2-week every year repeat, and I have 3 people that are a 1 week every year. That's between 2 houses.
Okay.
That's 5 weeks.
Out of the 2 houses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me come back to, just to open that up to others. Let me come back to that, just to talk about, just finish up on just talking about anything else from anybody that does to just, I mean, it's a similar line of just how do you get repeat bookings, and then we'll move on to just bookings in general. But is there anything else to help that folks do to help encourage, you know, your repeat guests to return? You know, or is there a way to you personalize your guest stay to help kind of, you know, just entice them again to return? You know, just if there's any more input, Joan, anything that you're doing yourself?
Well,
or when do you reach out? When do you reach out to your guests? Have you reached out to your last year's guests?
I have, and I have some people who said, yes, pencil me in. And so then when I get an inquiry for their week, I'll get back to them, the original renter, and give them maybe 24 hours, and that's it. And inevitably they'll say, okay, we'll take it. I think they're just sort of biding their time. If they don't need to commit, you know, definitively, then they won't. You know, I think I've heard people say they email them, they, you know, send them their listing to see what's available. They'll send them a Christmas card, just, you know, keeping in touch. But, you know, people do different things every year. You know, they don't always, they may have had a wonderful time at your home, but want to try something else, or they may go to the vineyard next summer or the Cape. So it's not always possible to get, you know, repeat renters. I know in Cynthia's case, she has the 2 homes, and then she combines them for a 3rd listing, which is a 7-bedroom. And we were in touch yesterday, and I said I really wasn't surprised that her listing for the 7-bedroom sleeps 14 people was not getting a lot of interest at this point, because I think people with the larger parties are waiting. They just don't know what the situation will be like. So some of those, even though normally and under normal conditions, people with a larger party will book really early, like the fall before, right now. But I think a lot of those people are waiting until maybe around the first of the year to see, you know, what's happening with the vaccine. What, you know, what does it look like? And
usually I would have that booked by now.
Right.
All together, most weekends in May and June, but I'm not seeing the weddings happening this spring.
That's the problem. The events are being canceled.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't worry, Cynthia. I think that the inquiries will come. It'll be a different pace, but you know, when we say the bookings and the inquiries are up, that's on average. So that means some are getting more than others, but I don't think it's an assessment of your homes or the
I just hope I'm not doing anything wrong, or there's nothing on my listing that I mean, I have nothing but good reviews. I'm middle of the first price.
Right, you're doing all the right things.
Okay.
They'll come.
Yeah, if
Okay.
those numbers are showing as high as they are, it will come. I'm very confident. But we're always happy to look at your listings too. I don't know, Joan, have you had a chance to?
Joan did.
Yeah.
She did, okay.
I
And the-
actually
and the-
my prices yesterday, thinking I thought, well, I'll just do it for a week and see if I get any. So it should be interesting to see if I get anything by raising them. I always try to stay on the low end because I
Right.
need to be booked. So we'll
Right.
see what.
Yeah, why not?
And you
It's
mentioned
the time of year to do it, Cynthia, you know,
Exactly.
can't be raising them later in the season, so.
Exactly. And I think I'm going to send out an email alert or do the phone calls. I think that's a great suggestion.
Good.
and it's not, you mentioned reviews and as a key point to any listing, and for last summer's guests or falls, there's a tone of a lot of the reviews comes through is in response to how well you as homeowners handled the virus and the cleanliness factor. And so if you haven't, it's not too late if you haven't asked. Ideally, you do ask when they leave or shortly thereafter. But if you haven't reached out to some of your guests from last summer, you can do so, or maybe prompt them to write a review, or are you interested in coming back at the same time, one or the other, and just get that feedback. And if you can get a positive testimonial guest review on your page that talks about how well it was, how COVID was handled in your home, that's going to entice others when they're looking at your listing because they're anticipating a similar summer to last year. And I do mentioning back on, sorry, I missed the name. Who was taking Kathy maybe of the picture of your guests? I love that opportunity
Kathy,
for
yeah.
those guest reviews. Is that there's an option to take a photo if you're there and you take a photo of your guests. You could text it to them right away, but you could also just send it to them. That later that day, the next day, along with a request to write a review. I mean, it's a very personal touch. That might go a long way because it's always like how many you could send 10 requests for reviews and get 2 or 3 back, and that would be a good result. So doing things to help entice additional reviews will help boost your listing for next year.
Can I mention the act now?
Sure. Now, yes.
Yes, now.
Yeah,
I don't know how many of you have heard of the organization actnow.org. It's ACK, now.org. It is a group that was formed about a year ago, an advocacy group that has as its goal to restore the balance to the growth and development on the island. And I listened this morning, Elizabeth's going to share the URL, 2 URLs related to this. I listened this morning to an interview that they conducted with someone on the island about their interest in restoring this balance. And one of their goals is to do this through restrictions to short-term rentals. And that's what this interview was all about. There's been another group on the Cape called barnstablewatch.com with the same goal in mind. And they're primarily interested in curtailing investors from buying up properties and using them strictly as investment and not as homeowner owned like we all do. But it could have some impact on them. And I think it's something that we all need to be aware of and watch, because they are interested in some restrictions on the short-term rentals, and it could affect us all. Curtis Barnes is on a government planning group that works with the town, and he said that he would just mention what he has learned about it. Curtis?
Yeah, well, I'm on the Town Government Study Committee, which is actually reviewing the form of government. We now have an open town meeting, and we're looking at options of representative town meeting, mayor, or city council. But the Act Now people are after the investors. It's very interesting. They're getting religion very lately. They're sort of newcomers to Nantucket who have decided to preserve everything that they want in it. And the smaller homeowners like myself are not interested in their protocols. They're really pushing a very political agenda. And in fact, the guy who started it has since resigned. So I think one has to be very, very careful. But I am trying to keep an eye on it. Again, from my perspective, I actually put an article into town meeting to cap the rental tax for small homeowners for rentals under $3,000. And that got shot down because it was illegal. It would affect bed and breakfast and hotels if they did that. But it's an interesting political action group. I think we got to keep an eye on them, but I can tell you my colleagues in the real estate business and a lot of them who do rentals are not happy with the, I got it here now and I'll fix your island now that I'm here. I want to go one step further, and we were talking earlier and I unhanded, but I'll come back. I do not take any bookings in the fall and tell everyone that our bookings start in January, because I don't want deposits that come in this year to be crossed over for my tax purposes. And so everything books the first 2 weeks in January. But for those who have take pictures and all the rest, I have a better answer. Chickens. I have chickens, and I give everyone a dozen fresh eggs from our chicken coop when they arrive.
Yay! I love it, Curtis. That's awesome.
A lot of fun too.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thank you
Curtis.
for that, Curtis.
Great.
Not everybody that gives fresh chicken eggs.
No.
I know.
Great
Jeez.
personal touch.
It is.
One thing before we wrap up, I did want to mention, we mentioned in all these meetings, is we started off the meeting when we were just before we officially started talking about service providers. You know, there's been discussion about cleaners or just service providers. Curtis, you're getting AC split in place. So sharing of names, especially questions that may come up outside of these meetings. We did start up a Facebook group last year. It's called the Vacation Rental Owners Community for Cape Cod and the Islands. And there's about 700 homeowners on there. And there have been a number of conversations over the past few months, you know, dealing with questions that we've raised today, but just also drilled down to specific locations. I'm looking for a service provider of a cleaner, a handyman, an electrician, whatever it may be in a certain area. And so it's a nice way to get some feedback or recommendations from others. So we're going to send a follow-up email to everybody who joined today with the video and a link to that. If you're not on that, check it out. It may find it worthwhile. The last thing before we do officially wrap up, just a basic question to this group is there anything that We Need a Vacation can do to help you? If you're, I don't know if everyone here is on We Need a Vacation, but is there anything that we can do to help you market or manage your home? Do you have any requests from us that going into the new year?
Correct.
You don't all have to speak at once.
I guess we're perfect.
Well, and you can unmute yourself if you are muted. Greg, if you want to chime in.
I've come to use your management tool much more this year than I have previously.
The booking
And I find
management.
it's really comprehensive. It's a wonderful tool. I have better control over who's coming in, who canceled.
Yep.
It's filled with detail if you want to use it. But I think that we've got to look at it as more of a dynamic document. And I think that there could be some small improvements regarding now since the lodging taxes come through, follow up on whether we report it or not, or what day it's due, or, you know, there are some small tweaks that could even make it better. But I just want to encourage everyone to use it because I found it is just fantastic.
Great. Good to hear. And yes, there are some pending items. I'd love to get the lodging tax in there for reporting purposes and just for your tracking capabilities. And so we're looking to enhance that, the user interface in it as well. Cynthia?
Just a question, and I think you guys are awesome. I can't believe it took me so long to find you. You all are doing a great job. I'm so grateful. Will we be able to see the results of the survey, the guest survey that you did?
Yeah, we just published that on over the weekend. So we're still getting some results in. We're going to post it up on Facebook as well onto our social channels, just try to gather some. So yeah, no, we're certainly going to publish the results out of that. And then we for better or worse, we had some open-ended questions such as kind of, would you rebook this home? Would you rebook the home that you stayed in? We got the statistics on that, 74%, but then we said, why or why not? And so we've got a flurry of activity or responses to read through.
That's great.
But it definitely was insightful from a quick look through. So we'll share that with you.
Okay.
For sure. All right.
I suppose if there may be something that would be worth our publishing in a homeowner blog post, Jim, or?
Yeah, I think, well, I'm not sure how.
If people aren't like me, not super involved in social media, maybe we'd be putting something out in a homeowner blog as well.
Yeah, no, I'm sure the results will come out in the blog and next newsletter as well. So you'll get it by email or our blog, whichever you follow.
Good
All right. Any other questions from the group? Does Jeff have a question?
The peanut gallery here suggested that.
Hi, I'm the peanut gallery.
He suggested that we encourage everyone to sign up to receive our blog posts. You know, you might see them when you get a newsletter, you see a link to it, but every time we send or publish a blog, you would get an email directly. So
that option's available. Yes. Yeah.
Jim, were you going to mention or maybe doing this in the future? Or?
I do think so. I think we've been having, like I said, if you didn't attend, we had 4 specific sessions last month on various topics, and then we broke it down into these roundtable discussions. We are going to continue these Zoom meetings, I think, on a monthly basis. We may do it for all of the Cape and Islands and then have some Nantucket breakouts as well. So stay tuned for that. We're going to come up with some sort of registration so you don't have to register every single time we do one of these. We can just put you on a communication list if that's something that you desire. So stay tuned for more information on that. So, all right. Well, thank you all for attending today, and
getting an inquiry as you speak.
That's awesome.
Popped up.
That's so funny.
that's funny.
And it wasn't me.
Yeah.
But that would be a neat trick. Well, good. Congratulations. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Thanks for coming.
Okay.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Nice to meet you.
Happy
You
Thanksgiving.
too. Bye.
You too. Bye.